Today, let's find out how advanced your English vocabulary is. I'll share 15 words that native speakers commonly use to sound educated and professional. And let's see how many of these words you know. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. The first word is mingle. Mingle. Do you know what this means? Understanding meaning depends on context. So here's an example sentence. She enjoys mingling with colleagues at after-work events. Now, do you know what this means? Mingle is a verb. You could tell by the sentence structure she enjoys doing something, an action. Now, to mingle, this means to move around and talk with different people in a social setting. And that's how it was used in that example. It can also mean to mix or combine. So I'll share an example of that as well. So to move and talk, you can say at the conference, guests mingled over coffee before the keynote speech. So there was talking and there was movement as well. Now, in terms of mix or combine, this sounds quite poetic. You might say the smell of fresh bread mingled with the aroma of coffee in the cafe. So those two smells combined and mixed. Don't worry about taking notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's listen to some natives using this word in real speech.
We're going to mingle here for a little while.
And again, those are groups that don't often mingle.
This let their genes mingle and expanded the gene pool.
Our next word is loom. Loom. Dark clouds loomed on the horizon. What does this mean? Well, hopefully you know that it's a verb, and this means to appear as a large, uncertain, or threatening shape. Now, it can also mean to seem about to happen. So those dark clouds, they could represent a threatening shape. Now, let's listen to this one. The deadline looms closer every day. So this sounds like the deadline is getting closer, but it's threatening. Here's another one that sounds threatening or uncertain. A tall figure, so a figure is an outline of a person. A tall figure loomed over him in the dark hallway. That sounds like something you would read in a horror story.
Deadlines loom, competing commitments clamor for our attention.
President Trump ends the year defiant, but challenges loom.
Let's see if you know this very common word, pebble. Pebble. I think I have a pebble in my shoe. What is a pebble? Well, you know it's a noun. A pebble is a small, smooth stone found on beaches or riverbeds. I personally have pebbles all over my yard because they're used to cover the path instead of concrete. So you can say the path was covered in pebbles. It's really quite pretty. Or you might say she carried a lucky pebble in her pocket. A lot of people have a lucky charm. A beautiful pebble that you found on the beach could represent that.
Every pebble that you see on the ground there is a piece of dinosaur bone.
That one person can be like a stone, a pebble, thrown in a lake.
This is an image of a pebble mosaic that I created.
How about dabble? Dabble. He dabbled in photography during college. So what does this mean? You know it's a verb, right? You saw it in the past simple. Well, if you dabble in something, in our example, photography, it means you take part in an activity, but in a casual or superficial way. So you're not dabbling with your English, you're serious, right? But there are many times when you do just dabble for pleasure, for general interest, curiosity. For example, I'm not a serious musician. I just dabble from time to time. Or many people dabble in cooking new recipes, but never get serious. And that's okay.
We knew we would always dabble in that because it was something like a hobby that we enjoyed.
Well, today I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything.
The military is not supposed to dabble in domestic affairs.
Our next word, pry. Pry. She hates when neighbors pry into her personal life. What does this mean? Well, you get the sense that it's something negative, right? She hates. And you know, it's a verb. To pry means to try to find out private information about someone or something. It has another meaning, and it's when you open something with force. But with the first meaning, to find out personal information, we commonly say, I don't mean to pry. I don't mean to pry, but, and now you're going to ask someone a personal question that you're not sure if they feel comfortable talking about. So you use I don't mean to pry to acknowledge that you're asking about a personal question. I don't mean to pry, but did you set a date for your wedding yet? Maybe this is a sensitive topic for that person. Now, to try to force open, you can say he pried the lid off the paint can. It was difficult to open.
We also need to apparently pry them away from their modern miracles.
You don't have to pry into people's inner work lives. In fact, that would really be a bad idea.
Along with Peter, she's going to pry open the lid for us on how the lobby works.
Our next word, hunch. Hunch. You might say, I had a hunch she would get the promotion. Oh, I had a hunch. So hunch is a noun, and a hunch is a feeling or guess based on intuition rather than evidence. For example, his hunch, because it's a noun, it belongs to him, his hunch about the weather turned out to be right. So he didn't look at the forecast, he just felt like it might rain, even though it was a beautiful day. And guess what? It rained, so his hunch was right. Or you can say they followed a hunch and discovered a great new restaurant. They didn't have any evidence, it was just this feeling, a hunch.
We tested her and her hunch proved correct.
I think she had the hunch that I wanted to be an actor.
You know, it's my hunch. Just do it. Don't think about it.
How about urge? Listen to that pronunciation, urge. My mom is urging me to set a date for the wedding because she won't stop prying into my personal life, right? So what does this mean? Well, it's a verb and it means to strongly encourage or persuade. So you might say she urged him to apply for the new position. You should apply, you must apply, please, please, please apply. So that's how you can urge someone. Or the ad urges customers to try the latest product.
But Howard urged me to open myself up to uncertainty.
Baron Cohen urged the billionaire club, dubbed the Silicon Six, particularly Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, to take more responsibility.
I really urge you to pay attention to every bit of what you put into the dish.
Let's review cling. Cling. The child clung to her mother during the storm. What does this mean? Well, you know it's a verb, and you just learned that it's an irregular past simple, clung. And the verb cling means to hold on tightly. Now it can be physically, so the child clung to her mother, but it can also be somewhat emotionally as well. So physically, you can even say wet clothes clung to his body after the rain. So you know what a t-shirt feels like when it's soaking wet. It clings to you. Now, more emotionally, you might say some employees cling to old habits. So they hold on tightly, but it's not to something physical, it's a habit, instead of adapting.
It must also be attracted to the glass, causing it to cling to the side.
So we don't have to cling on to things that just don't work.
But we will always cling to the comfort of what appears to be useful.
Do you know this word? Blunt. Blunt. She gave a blunt answer to the question. Blunt is an adjective. It means direct and straightforward, but sometimes in a way that seems rude. So he was known for his blunt way of speaking. If he doesn't like your shirt, he says, "I don't like your shirt." He's very direct and straightforward, but that can seem rude sometimes, right? It depends. Or remember when I explained we add, "I don't mean to pry, but..." We often use the same technique and say, "I'm sorry to be blunt, but..." You're apologizing in advance for saying something very directly that may seem rude. "I'm sorry to be blunt, but..." You're not qualified for the position.
Because to be brutally blunt, they put test prep on steroids.
If I may be blunt, why are you here on the Vogue floor?
Well, he lost his patronage, but he's very blunt about it himself.
Let's review brash. Brash. Teenagers can sometimes seem brash without meaning to. What does this mean? Brash is an adjective. It means confident, but in a rude, noisy, or pushy way. So not a positive way. You might say his brash behavior annoyed his coworkers. So maybe he felt so confident in his idea, but he was pushy about it. And he told everyone else their idea was bad. Or the salesperson made a brash pitch to the clients. The similar meaning as I just explained.
He was brash, irreverent.
Most commonly, we associate these traits with brash men.
Bernini was a brash young man of 25 when he sculpted this.
Let's review aloof. Aloof. My teenager is so aloof. Well, this is an adjective. This often describes teenagers. It can describe anyone though. If you're aloof, it means you're not friendly or forthcoming, so you're rather emotionally distant. If you ask your 16-year-old son how his day was and he's just like, good, maybe you could describe that person as aloof. Or you might say she remained aloof during the meeting. So she didn't say a lot, she didn't show her emotion, so you don't know if she's happy, upset, you just don't know. Or the manager stayed aloof from the office gossip. So in this case, it sounds a little more positive because the manager just ignored the gossip, didn't respond to it, just remained distant from the gossip.
My peers and my boss all thought I was aloof and arrogant.
I became very, very aloof and removed and was a loner.
I think rock musicians are more aloof.
Do you know this one? Hefty. Hefty. She received a hefty raise after her performance review. This is an adjective and it's positive. It means large, heavy, or substantial. So in the context of a hefty raise, that's very positive. A large raise, a substantial raise. But it can also mean heavy. He carried a hefty bag of groceries. Or in this case, it's not positive because the company paid a hefty fine. A fine is a penalty, a financial penalty. So you want the penalty to be small. You don't want it to be hefty for breaking the rules. That's why they have to pay the hefty fine.
To one is still a hefty ratio.
It's a little hefty.
I'm drizzling each with a hefty hit of yellow food coloring.
Let's review bolster. Do you know this word? Bolster. The data bolsters our argument. Bolster is a verb, and it means to support, strengthen, or improve. So he tried to bolster her confidence before the speech. That's a positive thing. Or extra funding will bolster the research project. It will improve it.
Let us seize this moment together. Let us bolster security. Let us seek new avenues of peace.
I can bolster my own identity.
And that's why we'll continue to bolster the defense of our frontline allies in Poland and Romania.
Do you know the word meager? Meager. Dinner has been meager since I lost my job. So always look to context. If the person lost their job, well, it's probably negative, and it is in this case. So meager is an adjective. It means very small or insufficient in amount. You can say the workers received a meager salary. Not a positive thing. Or they survived on meager resources during the trip. They had insufficient, very small amount of resources.
They had like very plain, bland food, a meager diet.
A lot of sales guys will come from meager backgrounds.
The price for the 7 vertebra is a meager $295.
Let's review daunting. Do you know this word? Daunting. Climbing the mountain looked daunting from below. Again, look to context for meaning. This is an adjective. It means seeming difficult to deal with or intimidating. Starting a new job can be daunting, intimidating, difficult to deal with. She faced the daunting task of organizing the event. So just by adding the word daunting, you know that organizing the event seems like a difficult, challenging task.
1,048,576 discs would be daunting, but entirely doable.
It was daunting to think about the scope of the project.
It was daunting. It had really beaten it out of me.
So how many words did you know before I explained them? Share your answer in the comments, and even if you knew 0 words, well, guess what? You just learned 15 new words. How awesome is that? Do you want me to keep helping you expand your vocabulary? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.